Wait, what is this shit?
The Not Safe for F***ing Worker Placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, shit. That sounds like... Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to the lucky 13th episode of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, a board game podcast brought to you by me, Leandra.
And me, Ben.
We're married and we're here to talk shit about board games.
Woohoo!
It's been like, what, 3 weeks?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. That's an old podcast joke. If anybody listens to like Comedy Bang Bang, that's
Oh,
a big
no,
thing.
that went right over my
Every
head.
time anybody says it's been a while, then somebody sings a Stained song.
Oh, well, you know.
So, how you been, babe? I missed you.
I've missed being here. It's been a really rocky, crazy couple of weeks.
It has, hasn't it?
It really has.
So you jet lagged and then
the
sleep
worst.
schedules and then daylight savings time right after that.
Oh my God. It
Yeah.
has been rough.
Or I guess it's technically the end of daylight savings time, but still, whatever. It screws you up.
Yeah, and it was right when I got back, which just made it even more worse. Like,
Even
and this
worse?
is my, whatever. This is my 4th time going to China.
Yeah.
And this has been the worst jet lag experience since I've gone. Like, this has been the worst one.
I think it's that couple. Well, you didn't get any, because of your schedule, you didn't get any sleep. So, like,
No.
you were up for, like, 48 hours.
Yes.
It's not usually that bad. It's
No.
usually, like, you're up for the time that you're flying, or you just get up and get on the plane, and then you're good to go. But this time you were...
For an entire 48 hours,
Yeah.
I was awake. And and then daylight savings time. And then, ugh.
Yeah. So, but you're back.
Yes.
And we took a little time off. We had a busy schedule
So
leading
thank
up
you.
to this.
Thank you, listeners. And I apologize for the delay.
That's all right. We do it when we can. It'd be better to wait until we're ready to do it than just to force one out. So anyway, speaking of forcing one out, it's time to do the plugs. That just sounds gross.
It does. It sounds so horrible.
So I'm going to force out some plugs here. For all of your NSFWP needs, go to nsfwppodcast.com, where you'll find links to download the latest episodes, pictures from games we've been playing, as well as links to our iTunes, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and Stitcher, and any other thing that I can think of to throw on there. So get on there and comment. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Stop spamming us about Levitra prices or Cialis. We don't need that. I get about 35 a day of those things, and that the spam filter catches, and they like notify me of every single one. It's crazy. But anyway, we've got good prices on Cialis and Levitra. So now we're going to do what we do every episode, which is...
Talk about games we have been playing recently.
Very good. Exactly. All right. So we've been playing a few games since you got back. I've been playing a lot of games, but we're not going to talk about all those because you weren't involved in most of them, and that's boring. I am going to talk about a few that I played at game night because they're exceptional games, but first we're going to tackle some that we played together. First off, you and I and Vaughn got together a few days ago, last week or so, and we played Deadline. Tell us a little bit about Deadline, Lee.
I'd love to. It's a little mystery detective game. It was super fun. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, but in a smaller version, so it didn't take 3 hours to figure it out. But we played co-op, and I'll let you get into the nitty-gritty of the description, but it was super fun. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit about how it works. So.
Yes.
It is, like you said, similar to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, only it's more of a game. There's more gaming aspects to it. So basically, there's 12 cases that you can play. Each case takes about a little over an hour to play, I would say, at least judging by the first one that we played. And once you play a case, you can't play it again because you're going to get clues throughout the game, and at the end of the game, similar to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, you're going to answer a series of questions, and you'll be scored based on the answers that you give or how many get correct at the end quiz. So how the game is played is everybody gets a hand of cards, and these cards have symbols on them or they're bad break cards. So like they're either lead cards, which have symbols at the bottom, or they're bad break cards, which if you're forced to play those, they do bad things to either you or everybody at the table. In the breakdown of the game is you were going to get a series of locations along the side, and you can decide by first player marker is given, and that person is the chief investigator. So you're going to read out a story, which we're not going to really talk about the exact stories because those are total spoilers, and once you know about them, you can't play them again. But let's say you get your first case and you read out the little intro, and then it'll tell you to set out certain location cards. So you set out let's say 3 location cards at the beginning. Whoever's the head detective has to choose where you're going to go. You guys can talk about it and everything and discuss, but ultimately it's the lead investigator's decision which one you tackle. So you set that out in the middle of the table, and it has a certain number of symbols on it.
What was there? There was a money stack, a gun, a cigarette case,
a cigarette,
or cigarette
pack, a whiskey shot, and I think that might be it. There's like 4 or 5 symbols.
So each location has different symbols on there. So it could have like 3 guns and whiskey and a pack of cigarettes, or whatever, any kind of combination. And so you then have to look at your cards, and you have to come up with these symbols. So you play cooperatively.
And you play one card at a time on your turn.
Yes, one card at a time. And so, but the thing is you have to overlay everyone else's cards. So, but you can't speak. Once it comes to that part of the game, you can't talk.
You can, but you can't tell. Like you can't say,
"Oh, move that over to the right or the left," or
and you can't say, "I have a card with 2 whiskeys and a gun." You can't say that specific. You can say, "Hey, I can help out here. Don't put anything." You can't even say, "Don't put it like this," because when it comes to laying down the card, one of the rules is you cannot say, "Wait, don't do that. Don't lay it like that." Once they start putting their card down, it's their decision where they overlay.
Like the bad guy or the location may have, let's just for easy purposes, it'll have a whiskey and then a blank space, and then a pack of cigarettes and a gun, let's say. And so we are trying to figure this out and make sure we lay the right cards down. So my card may have, it was a top hat. It was a hat.
Oh, yeah, a bowler hat. Yeah.
So my card may have a hat, a gun, and whiskey. So I lay it down so they can cover up that hat and the whiskey with other symbols. So the whole objective is the very last layer, no matter how many got laid and over top of each other, has the exact symbols of what was needed.
Yeah, it could have location. More, but it has to have at least the number of symbols that are there. So sometimes you have to cover up something that you need in order to get something else out, which then somebody could be like, "Oh, no, you screwed it up by doing that." But then you have to work around that. So that's a neat mechanic that you have to cover something up. Because it makes you choose, sometimes you have to do something bad to try to make something good work out. But then the whole thing is you only have so many cards in your hand per round, and once you can't play anything because you don't have any of the symbols or you've just run out of cards, then if you have any of those bad break cards in your hand, you have to play one. If you don't, you just discard your hand and you'll get a new hand in the next round. But if you have one, you have to play it. And everybody can have a max of 2, and they range from being like every card that or every location that you play from here on out has to have
an additional hat
an extra
or
whiskey,
something.
or hat or something, an extra symbol. To like you can't draw, or what is it?
The other ones I kept on getting was you need to remove.
Oh, you have to discard a certain symbol.
Which really sucks because if you have a card that's got 3 symbols on there, and that's the only card that has the whiskey that you have to remove. You have to lose that whole card with all those symbols.
So like we'd have some that made whenever we drew up new cards at the beginning of the round, you had to discard one of a certain type, which was really tough. Now there are ways to get rid of those because there's this cool little mechanism where there's these matchbooks that are laid out because, in every detective movie or novel, like you find a clue inside of a matchbook. That's the idea. So you have these matchbooks that are flipped face up with like different location, like different bars on them and stuff. And if you play down a card on your turn that has one of those matchbooks, if it's not already, you can flip it over and it's got like a burning match on the other side. And if you have 2 of those, you can discard one of those bad break cards from yourself or someone else at a table. So you could spend 2 to do that. You can spend 3 to, no, I'm sorry. You can spend 2 to draw a card. You can spend 3 to get rid of one of those. You can spend 4 to get rid of 2 of those bad break cards. So you're trying to manage, do I need more? Is it better if I try to get rid of one of those bad things? Or is it better if I just draw another card and hope I get the one that we need?
And you get to turn over those match cards at, so the little cards that you have at the symbols, will have the matchbox
Yeah, that's how you get them turned
symbol
over.
over. Yeah, and
If
the
you
different
play them
colors
on your
there.
turn, then that's how they get flipped over. So then once you use them, you flip them back over, and so you've got to get them flipped over again. That's a neat mechanic. I really like the way it works. We played the first scenario, and we got every clue, so there was no chance that we weren't going to answer the thing. How it works is the countdown to the game is there's 3 bullets that you start out with on the table, and those are like your lives. And every time you fail, if you don't get all the clues that you need for a location, that location goes back into the pile, and then you could try it later, but you lose one of those bullets. So if you lose all 3 bullets, then after that you start losing the location with the highest, they're numbered, and the one with the highest number goes away until there's no locations left to investigate. Then you just go and answer the questions based on whatever clues you have received. So what happens is if you get those, like we talked about, you play down those cards. If you succeed, you flip that over, and there's a story on the back where you went there to investigate some part of this case, and it's going to tell you about the characters and give you leads, and it will give you other locations to set out to have choices to go to. So that's pretty cool.
It was a really fun game. I enjoyed playing it, and I'm looking forward to doing the next scenario.
Yeah, I think I prefer this to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I like Sherlock Holmes, but it's just so long.
It's long.
And there's so much reading to do. This one is more of it's still a good story.
It's a quick version.
There is deduction to do. Now, I think they're going to get gradually harder. Those locations are going to have more symbols on them as we go and stuff, because we found every single clue in this one, so it made it to where we couldn't possibly not have the answer. But I think they're going to get harder as they progress.
I don't think it's because the game is too easy. I just think it's because we were awesome.
Oh, we're just so great.
Mm-hmm.
We just manipulated it so well.
Yes, we did.
But there's a really cool mystery that's going on, at least in the first case. It was cool because there were definitely red herrings, and there were places that you would go that were just dead ends, and you had to try to, use the clues wisely in order to be efficient with your actions, because we were able to mess around a little at the end to just kind of burn through places to see, because there was no danger of us not getting, we knew exactly what it was. Like, we hadn't seen every clue yet, but we knew exactly, we'd seen enough to know exactly what happened. So we knew we could answer it. But we went to some of those places to see the dead ends anyway, just so we'd know, and so we did pretty good because I think we went all the right places to begin with. We followed the clues, and we went to the right places.
Back to my previous comment that we're just awesome.
We're just awesome. So that's Deadlines from WizKids Games. I really like it. I think, that this is a real evolution of that mystery game that actually gives you something to solve, but there's a game behind it. It's not just a free for all. Let's go here and see what happens. It's like, let's go here, but do we want to go here because do we have the cards to do it, or do we not? Maybe we go to this other place just because we know we can see it. Then we're going to get to draw new cards, and maybe we'll have a better shot. There's a little more game to it. So after that, we had another game night where we planned to play a different game, but I had just been working on a new prototype of mine, and so we ended up playing that all night long.
We did.
And I got some good feedback on it, and I got to talk a whole lot about it yet because it's still in its infancy stage, but it's basically about being a slumlord in the late 1800s in London, in the East End, where the slums were some of the worst in the world, and how towards that end of the century there, they started cleaning up the slums. And so these landowners faced a problem whether they had to start repairing their properties or just let them get torn down. So that's kind of the idea of the game. And it all just kind of came to me over one day at work. I started thinking about it, and I started getting all these mechanisms in my mind and started putting it together.
The player board's pretty awesome. The player board is was it a 4 or 5 story? 5 stories?
4.
4-story rickety looking apartment building from London, where it's got the outside staircase, and you can see like the heating mechanism going all the way up,
The chimney.
The chimney.
heating mechanism.
Yeah.
That old school heating mechanism called a chimney.
Yeah. Chimney. That's
Anyway,
what it was.
it's still
But
in
it
its
looks
infancy.
really cool. Like I like the player board, of course, and I love your artwork. So, it was fun. We played it twice, three times.
We
Something
played
like
it
that?
2 times in
Two
that
times?
night. Yeah, and I've made a lot of changes just from talking about that one. So that's good. And I actually, one really cool thing is I've been working on all these different games lately, and a friend of mine, Bobby, you've met him, came up to me at game night the other day and said, "Oh, UFC, you've been working on all these games." He's like, "I've got several designs that I've been working on, and I'd really like to bounce some ideas off somebody. Would you be interested in working with me on some?" So that's pretty cool.
That's
so I might have a
neat.
collaborator.
That's really cool.
And Bobby's a really cool dude, and he's a very smart guy too. So I'm interested to see what he's working on.
That's fun.
So that's prototype news. Then the game that I wanted to play that night, which we didn't end up playing, you and I have played a couple of times in the last few evenings, and that is Ex Libris. From
The bookshelf game.
Yeah, the bookshelf game, as Lee calls it. It's by Adam P. MacGyver and published by Renegade Games. I've been waiting on this game for a long time. I had it pre-ordered as soon as I saw pictures of it and heard the idea. The theme is you are a fantasy librarian, which sounds really nerdy, and it is. It's like you're a librarian of a fantasy world library, and you take a kind of a character at the beginning. You draw 2 and then randomly, and then you get to pick out from those 2, and they're everything from a fire imp to a witch to a gelatinous cube to a snowman to what'd you have, the Sasquatch. And the cool thing is it's a worker placement game. So everybody gets 2 regular workers, but then depending on that special character librarian you draw, you get a special worker, which it's got all these different meeples for each one of those. So there's a little snowman meeple, there's a Sasquatch meeple. The gelatinous cube is like a green translucent 6-sided die with no pips on it, so it looks really cool.
Gelatinous cube.
And they all have different powers. And then it's it's a pretty simplistic worker placement game where more spots become available as you play the game. So why don't you tell a little bit about how it works, babe?
Well, first of all, I suck at it.
No, you don't. You say that about every game. If
No.
you don't win every time you play, you say you suck at it.
We've played twice and I've lost.
Yeah,
so,
but you were within 3 or 4 points last time we
So
played.
anyway, it's like working in a library. The whole object of the game is to get these books that have the alphabet on them, and then they're all categorized with the number. So like the A's will have 1 through, let's say, 7. So each card will say 1 A 2-7 or A 3-7, so that way you can kind of know how many are in that particular letter, and that way when you place them in front of you in your area, you place them in not only chronological order but numerical order as well.
Well, how do you do that? So these are cards that you have in your hand, right?
Yes. So
those are your books. Now, how do you place them out into your library?
well, you have to shelf it.
Mhm.
Is the name as how
But
it.
how do we do that?
So you get to pick different power. What would you call those?
Locations. They're just location
not the
spots.
location spots. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a worker placement game.
Yeah. So each round you get 2 new location spots, and out of those 2, 1 stays every round. So then you end up with, by the time the game's over, you have like however many rounds it took you to get your 15 or 16.
Yeah, we've had everything
different.
from like 5 to I think
We had-
8 or
yeah,
9 in the
yeah.
last game.
And so these location spots have different abilities. So they could be anywhere from, now you're first player, you get to draw however many meeples you have out, to, you can switch your card for a different card that's in this pile, or there's a yard sale option, or there's an auction option, or there's all these different ways to trade out your cards, to move your cards, to shelf your cards, to draw new cards.
Absolutely. But the 2 basic things that you're looking to do, like, it's really cool because there's all that variety going on, but there's only 2 things you can do on your turn.
Draw
It's
and
draw
shelf.
a new card with a new, and that'll be, it'll be either A through Z card with a number on it, or shelve a card from your hand and put it down in front of you.
Which is like putting the book on the shelf. So
Yeah. And there's rules having to do with that.
There
So
are
what are
rules.
those
So
rules?
you have to go in chronological, alphabetical, numerical order.
Well, you don't have to. You can lay them down in any order you want.
Sure, you
but
can.
you won't score any points.
But
that
you
way.
won't get any points at the end of the game. So Ben won the first game because I told him, "Hey, your letter's out of order."
No, that was last time. No, that was the first time.
the first
yeah.
time because you put a V
Yeah.
up by your A.
Because basically the main rules are for placing your stuff down is you can have up to 3 rows of shelving. So
Infinite
3 stacked on top,
columns.
and they can be they can have infinite columns long, but they can only be 3 high. And you start scoring at the end of the game. You start counting alphabetical and chronological from the top left one. So you could just do one long shelf if you wanted, or you could do 2
But the
longer
thing
shelves.
is there's not very many options to be able to move your cards once you've put them down. So it's a good idea to like your first row to have A. And you can put it on like you can start off with an E for whatever, but you can
you can go backwards.
You can put them on the left or the right.
Mhm.
But the thing is you when you start your second row, they have to be touching a card either at the bottom or the top. And
Yeah,
it can't
orthogonally.
be-
You can always place
Yeah.
to any of the 4 main sides of a card, but not if it would make you have 4 rows and you can't put diagonal. You can't just have corners touching.
Yeah,
So.
see, and that's where my brain doesn't operate well because I like for things to be very squared.
Well, and that's a bonus in this game because you score for a bunch of different things. At the end of the game, you score at the beginning of the game, you place out 2 types of cards. One is going to be a favored card, and one is going to be a banned type of card. And all of these cards, they in addition to having a letter and a number, they also have symbols on them, and they can be there's banned books. And there's all these things that I have no idea what
There's
they
a
are.
little magnifying
Spells and
glass.
potions. There's a magnifying glass. There's monster manuals.
There's the ink.
There's an inkwell, and they all have names. But there's like 6 different symbols,
The skull.
and those symbols correspond to that's the type of book it is. So basically, if you have an A5, it might have 5 symbols on it because there's 5 different books, and there literally are books on each card, and they all have titles, and they're funny. There's funny
They're fun to
titles on there.
read.
So, but at the beginning of the game, you put out 2 cards corresponding to those different symbols. One is going to be a favored book, and you're going to get 2 points, or you're going to score for majorities of that type. And then there's a banned book, which is going to be a -1 point for every one of those you have of those symbols. And then, so you score that way. Then you score by
Your
shelf
hidden.
stability. So there's shelf stability. So the way you stack your shelves, as long as they're fully supported, like if you have a 4 on the top level, 4 more directly under them, and 4 more down below, you're going to score a point for each one of those in that solid section. So maybe you have 3 by 3
So,
by
yeah, if
3.
your
So that'd be 9
columns-
points or 12 points
If
or
your
whatever.
rows don't have rows underneath them to support them, you're not going to get extra points.
So that has to do with how you lay down your stuff throughout the game. If you don't, keep them symmetrical like that, then you're not going to score that big bonus. And then you also score you're also given at the beginning of the game, out of those type cards, you're given a hidden one. Each person's given a hidden one, and that's your favored type of your specialty of your library. So like, say I get monster manuals, then for every monster manual that I get, it is multiplied by 2. That's 2 points for every one of those I get. And then there's also a bonus for the type that you have the least of. There, you get 3 points for each one of the one you have the least of. So say my least symbol that I have is 7, I would get 21 points off of just that because
There's
that's
all
my
different ways
least.
to
And those are all
score.
the different ways to score. And then
What was your one complaint, babe?
my one complaint?
Yeah.
I don't remember. What was it?
It was that the damn marker only worked for one
Oh
day.
yeah, the freaking marker. So it has this awesome dry erase scoreboard at the end, because at the end you really do have to score it up every time. You have to count every single symbol that you have in every variety and add it up, because you need to know, who has the most of the prominent one, who has what one did you have the least of, and all that, So you really have to do all this big scorecard every time. So instead of giving you a big pad of score sheets, they give you this dry erase board that's really nice. It's double-sided. It's got the solo variant on one side and multiplayer on the other. And it's got a nice little dry erase marker in there. Well, that dry erase marker worked fantastic out of the box the first time we played. I put it back in there, and I don't know. Maybe I didn't snap it closed. I guess I didn't, but I thought I did. And I did carry it around a couple times, so maybe it got jostled loose. But the very next time I went to play it, no dry erase marker. Didn't work. Totally dried up. So I threw a couple of new, better ones in there,
did.
Good Lord, that did piss me off. I threw it across the room. I was like, what? So,
You big baby.
I liked it. It's very simple. It's a very simplistic game, but also there's a lot to think about while you're playing it. Like when you're done, you're like, what did I really just do? Not a lot. I just put a bunch of stuff in alphabetical order. But doing it during the game makes you think a lot about what you're doing.
What I was trying to say was like you are very good at like making your 3 rows and not worrying about making them go left to right, because I think that's where my brain gets stuck. Like I want everything to go left to right, so it's hard for me to stick a card way over here on the left or the right and fill it in backwards.
I just start out with the basic rule of thinking I'm going to try to start with A through D or something like that in my top row. Start there, and then if I get anything in the N to M to O area, I'm going to stick that on my second one. And if I get anything, then you have to go second. You have to wait, because like in that last game, I had like U, V, X, Y, Z all in my hand from the beginning, but I didn't want to start those on the bottom and try to build up. I waited till I got a couple of rows and then I could stick one in the middle, and then I went and put them all out. But that's how I think. I just want to divide it into thirds of the alphabet.
You do very well with
that.
the concept of the laying on the
But
cards.
one thing that last time I didn't do, because I was so interested in trying to get my stuff out and get my stability, is I didn't pay enough attention to the actual symbols. I ended up winning, but I was like, I had so many of the banned books because I just wasn't even thinking about it, So I don't know. I liked it.
I liked it.
And it's so fast playing. It plays really quick with 2 players. It's like 20, 25 minutes maybe.
We played that twice.
Yep. And so that's Ex Libris from Renegade Games. I think we both liked it. Now I'm going to quickly cover a couple of games while Leander sits over there and yawns at me probably, that I played when you were gone, or while you weren't at game night with me, because you never come to game night with me. That's when that's when your sister is my wife.
Yes. Well, I'm home, doing dance class and feeding and bathing our child.
You don't feed or bathe her on those nights.
Yes, I.
You guys eat ice cream for dinner then.
We do not.
Okay, what do you eat?
Fruit parfaits.
Ice cream. Okay. So, last week at game night, my friend, who I talk about on here a lot, Catherine, who's the queen of the Euro game, she got a new Kickstarter in called Clans of Caledonia. And I had seen this game on Kickstarter, and I just passed it over. I skimmed it, and I was like, it looks like a ripoff of a UA Rosenberg game. Looks like Agricola or Caverna or something like that. And probably not designed as well as those games. So the reason I thought it looked like that is because it has the same artist. It has Clemens Franz art, which does draw me in, but also it was farming in the Scottish Highlands, which is, it's been done a million times before. I thought, I don't need that. But once I saw it, I did want to play it. So, she got it out, and I was like, oh, it's a smaller box than I thought it would be. It's it's got metal coins, and it looks kind of pretty out there. It's got all these little, animal meeples and vegetable meeples and such. So anyway, I was like, yeah, let's play this. And I loved it. It's a freaking awesome game. It is designed brilliantly. It's a smoother version of most of those UA Rosenberg games. The one thing about him is that his rule sets are pretty dense and hard to explain. This one is very smooth, much easier to explain. Plays in a relatively quick time, probably about 2 hours with a full count of 4 players. And it's basically about in the late 19th century, whenever Scotland was starting to turn from agricultural to industrial. It's about that time period, and you're trying to basically farm your little land and make either wheat or sheep wool or meat or beer, whatever your particular clan that you get at the beginning of the game at random, whatever their specialty is, you want to kind of play to that. And I ended up winning my first game of it, which is always good. That makes me like a game. And I've never beaten Catherine at a Euro game before, so that was a first.
You even made a cute little meme on Facebook.
Yeah, I made the old Lord of the Rings meme of one does not simply beat Catherine at a Euro game. But yeah, so I had to brag about it because it never happens. And anyway, I have plans to play it again soon. If I can get a hold of a copy of it, I will. I heard that there may be an issue that they did such a good production and they sold it so cheaply that they didn't make any money on it and that it probably will never make it to the actual mass market. But maybe they'll do another Kickstarter for it, since now they have all the files and everything. Maybe they could do a cheaper print run. I don't know. But if I get a hold of it, I would get it. It's a really good game. Clans of Caledonia. That's designed by Juma Al-Juju. Very good designer. And I would look for anything that he does in the future because he's got some chops at it. Then, speaking of design chops, I played my second ever game of Scythe from Jamie Stegmaier and Stonemaier Games. Speaking of Jamie Stegmaier, he was on our last episode. We thank him again for doing that. If you didn't listen to the Halloween episode, go back and check that out. Jamie is heavily featured on there. He has been a designer that's pretty much hit it out of the park every time. Euphoria was not my favorite game when I played it the first time, but I've since played it a couple of times, and I see the kind of brilliance in that design. But then he followed that up with Viticulture, which is one of our all-time favorite games. And then Scythe came out it's probably the most anticipated board game that there has been up to this point. Partly because it was Jamie Stegmaier's third game, partly because the artwork from Jacob Rosowski, who pretty much all Jamie did was post one picture of this game before any of the game was actually designed, and it was this picture of this turn of the century farmers in a field with a giant mech in the background, and it's very realistic and it's evocative of like this steampunk alternate universe thing. And the whole entire internet exploded, and everything from that point on, it was at the number one of hotness and anticipated lists and everything till it came out. And then lo and behold, it came out. It got Game of the Year on a lot of lists and stuff. It was just named this year to another Game of the Year list. But for me, it's not the type of game that I didn't go out and buy it because it looks like a war game. And I know that you would look at it and go, I want no part of these mechs walking around and these dudes on a map looking game. That's not something you would usually be into. It's deceptive because it's not really a war game. It's a game pretty much like Viticulture or more like Euphoria, actually. It does have a map, and it does have to do with moving your people around a map, and you do fight, but you're only incentivized to fight twice in a game. You can't score any more points from fighting except for twice. So basically it's about getting stars out on the board. Just like Euphoria, you had your stars and you're getting them out on the board, and like the new little part in Viticulture, you get those stars, right? That's his thing. Well, the whole thing about this one is the game's over when somebody gets 6 stars out, and you're trying to get your reputation built up to multiply your different things before the end of that game, and you're trying to score points based off of, that's basically it. Your multiplier multiplies your money, and money's the thing. So if you can make money throughout the game and then get a multiplier on your stars and your reputation and your money at the end of the game, you're going to win. But it looks like a war game because it's a big map and you got, guys running around and look like but really what people do most of the time is expand and move and produce goods. You have a board, and it's very asymmetrical because you get a faction, and they've got a special ability, and they got their little, special workers and special leader dude. And then you also get another board that goes underneath that, and those are all randomized. And every board has the same actions, but is laid out in different orders and has like different distributions of stuff. And the cool thing about this game is you start out with all these covered spaces on the top of your board with these little cubes. They're covered, and as you go, you're going to upgrade and take those cubes off of the top and put them on the bottom of that board, and that's going to make everything that you do with your actions cheaper. So the whole game you're uncovering powers from the top and making things at the bottom cheaper. And I don't know, it's a ingenious game. Now everybody says it's so good because it's so balanced. Well, that's what I've heard a lot of people say, and I have heard a lot of people complain about it. I don't think it's balanced at all. I think it definitely does not behoove players that have experience versus players that don't. The inexperienced players are always at a disadvantage. I played the first game that I ever played was everybody's first game that was playing, and I came in second, and it was a fairly, low scoring affair. This time I played with a couple of people. It was my second game, and I think 3 out of the 5 of us, they had played many, many times, like over 10 times a piece. And the one guy was new. Now, he didn't get demolished, like the new guy didn't get demolished, and I came in third, but the person who won by 20 points. And it wasn't necessarily because, it was sort of because of the faction combination that he got and the board that he got, but it was also because he knew what he was doing more than the rest of us did, you know? And the one other guy who really knew what he was doing felt like he was hampered by the boards that he got. So I think it's so asymmetrical that there can be combinations with those boards and those factions that everybody says the red is overpowered. That's what they say. Every time the red one is in the game, then they win. I don't know. I don't even remember if I played in the first game. There wasn't any red in this game, but there was the yellow faction. And it just seemed like on his turn, he was doing 3 times as much as everybody else. He was just able to get that working because of the combination of that board and his special powers. Me, I felt like I was just doing the same 2 actions over and over and over and just bounce, because you can't do the same action twice. So I would just bounce over to do something else so I could go back and produce again. You know, that was kind of what my faction was doing. And I did okay, but I do not think it's balanced. I think it can work out if you have an unbalanced thing, if you're really smart about what you're doing. There's probably a good way to play every combination, but some are just way easier to play than others. So it's probably not very balanced, but who cares? You know, it's still a really fun game. Even if you lose, it's fun to try to figure out the puzzle of the game. So that's Scythe. I'd like you to try it sometime. Craig has it, and you can just say, hey, you played the other Jamie Stegmaier game. But that being said, we're also waiting on Charterstone to come out.
Mm-hmm.
That's his new game that comes out in December. And once that comes out, I'll probably forget all about Scythe because we'll be playing that all the time for sure. That's more of our style of game. So a legacy game about building up a town. You know, that sounds more our style.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty much games we've been playing, except one more. We're going to have a special guest review here of a game called Luchador Mexican Wrestling. Lily's going to come in here in a minute and help me review that game. We'll be right back. I'm here with special guest, the fruit of my loins, the most wonderful child anyone could ever imagine, Lily. Say hi, Lil.
Hi.
All right, what are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about a game, right?
Yeah.
You and I played it. It's called Luchador Mexican Wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And what's the game about?
It's about wrestling a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're cool.
Another character that's playing with you.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your character that you played?
I played
Her name was Ayayay Dolores, right?
I knew it was Ayayay, but I forgot her like real name.
Yep, it's Ayayay Dolores. Now, what'd she look like? She was pretty cool.
Yeah, she's like she has like reddish pink hair, and she had like her smile was huge.
She had a cool mask, right?
Yeah.
Because all these wrestlers have masks on, these luchador masks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is we've got this 3D board that looks like a wrestling ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's even got the ropes around it and everything. And you've got your corner. You decided to be blue, and I'm going to be red. How do we play the game if we're going to fight each other? How does it work?
You have four dice, and if you have your certain color that goes on the board, and you roll those dice, and if one of them falls off, then that one doesn't count. Like if you have a hit and someone blocks you, and you have a block, and that person has a block, then you don't get to hit them. There's also a reverse. There's a pen, and you can only do a pen if someone goes down 15 points.
Mm-hmm, down to 15, and you start with 21,
and if
right?
you hit them, that's how much. And there's a cheat board, and it says like how much it goes. You go down like 7 or like 5 or 1.
Because
or
for every hit you get, right, you have a green die, and that green die has different symbols. Like if it's got like a karate chop, it's got like a chair throw, and it's got like a table smash is the best one, right?
Mm-hmm. Like
and so
that's 5.
That will
That's
tell
the
you how
best.
much they'll do. But then, what if you get 2 hits that aren't blocked? What can you do with that then? You
That
can roll
aren't
your
blocked?
special die.
Yeah, it's your black die.
Yeah.
And there's only 2 spots that have X's on them.
Mhm.
And if you roll that one, you just add a block. But if you roll any other one, you can probably
Do a really cool special move, right?
Yeah, and you most likely, if you get the most powerful one, you're probably gonna win.
Because you get 7 damage if you do your highest, most powerful special ability, right?
Yeah.
So what was your special ability that you did?
I did like a karate chop
And
and in a table smash.
Mhm.
Which
No,
is-
remember
no.
your super special ability where you climbed on top of the ropes?
Oh yeah, I climbed on top of the ropes and I did a back flip and I landed it.
Yep, and then you landed
Booyah.
on me, and then
Yeah, I landed on you and I kicked you.
you did like 5 damage with that, right?
Yeah, it
That
was
was pretty
super
cool.
cool.
Yeah. And then my guy, he did one. I think I was El Charro Negro, and he did a special ability where he like danced around and then ran from one of the ropes and bounced off and got you from the other one, right? Kind of bounced from one rope and clotheslined you. The old classic move. So, what do you think about luchador Mexican wrestling? Okay, what happened at the end? You finally got to like pin me, right?
Yeah, I got to pin you, but
and you were down to
but-
one life, right?
But you thought you were gonna win because you were the one who punched me or table
Yeah, I
smashed
took
me.
you down to 1.
Yeah, you table smashed me and I was at 1.
Yep.
And then you looked at the rules and the person that has the pin
Yep.
is the one who goes first. So I was the one who won.
Yeah, because you pinned me 3 times. And whenever you pin somebody, they have to roll all of their dice, and for every one of the blocks or reverses they get out of it, right? And you get 3 times to do that. But I had to get out of 3 different pins, and each successive one that you do, you get 1 less dice to roll. So I only made it past the first pin, and then you got me on the second one, huh?
Yeah.
Yep, and you totally won, and you got a championship belt.
Yes, I did. It came with that.
Yeah, it has a cool cardboard championship belt.
And you like, I got to hold it up and you took a picture of it. It's like a slideshow because you took like many pictures of me, and you put it on a slideshow on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
That was super cool because it was like I got to hold it over my head and do a stink face.
Yeah.
That was the most fun part.
All right. So did you like that game?
Yes, I loved it so much.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for reviewing this with me, kiddo.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to stick around for an ad?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Lily, you know what's coming up next year in April?
What?
Moon City Con. You know where it's located?
No.
Springfield, Missouri. Do you know what dates?
No, I don't.
April 14th and 15th. You didn't know any of that?
No.
You didn't know that I'm helping to put on this convention? Springfield's only tabletop-only convention?
I did not know that, and I didn't know you were going in it.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that's putting it together. Well, you've learned a lot today, haven't you?
Yes.
So you've learned that on April 14th and 15th, 2018 in Springfield, Missouri, we'll be putting on Springfield's premier tabletop gaming convention, Moon City Con. And everybody, including you, can get more information at mooncitycon.com, where also they can get t-shirts that I designed for Moon City Con, and you can wear your swag to the convention. You can get them right now with free shipping for $25, and you can stop sitting around playing games topless, because that's just weird, right?
Yeah.
You know how you're always coming in and seeing us playing games and nobody has a shirt on? Isn't that just weird? We need to get on that website and buy some t-shirts, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll see you, Lily, and the rest of you listening on April 14th and 15th, 2018 at Moon City Con. Check out www.mooncitycon.com. Bye. All right, now we're back with our feature segment for this episode. It's a new one. We call it Buy Me This Game. All right, so Buy Me This Game. This comes from the fact that I'm trying to institute a board game budget for the first time, because otherwise I will just spend all my money and be sad and broke. So I figured, since I make Leandra play all these games that I buy, and then she forgets them immediately, and then we try to review them for you guys, I thought that if she picked some of the games that we play and review, she might be more invested and therefore remember something about them. Do you think that'll work, babe?
We shall see.
It probably won't work, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. So the idea is, this may be a recurring segment here, depending on the games that Leandra picks.
Hey, now.
She's going to pick 2 games, and she's going to try to sell me on them. And then I'm going to pick 2 games and try to sell them to her. And we'll each pick one of these games. I will then purchase them. We'll play them, and we'll see if they're any good.
Let's note here that I am at a way bigger disadvantage than you are.
Why? You have the internet.
Well, I have the internet, sure, but trying to find a game that I'm interested in that I think you haven't seen
It doesn't matter if I've seen it or not.
or that we don't already have downstairs and I'm unaware of is
Yeah.
a humongous possibility.
Well, if you pick a game that we already have down here that you're unaware of, that just saves me money. We can play that game.
True.
All right, so you're up
Fair
first. So
enough.
hit me with your 2 games, and then
Hit
I
me
will
with your
choose one.
best shot. Okay.
Fire away.
Okay, so the first game that I stumbled across that I went, that looks like fun and researched was Sunday Split by Renegade Game Studios. So, have you heard of it?
I have heard of it.
Shit, of course you have.
I don't know a lot about it, though. Tell me about it. I know it's
So-
something to do with splitting up piles and then letting someone else choose it and making sundaes, I think.
Yes.
And vegetables are bad.
Vegetables are bad, so you
Okay.
don't want to get vegetables. So I watched a little YouTube tutorial about it, and which, of my own decision to do that was amazing. I'm like, wow, I'm watching a game, a video about how to play a game. That's what you do. That's not what I do.
Oh my God, I have a podcast about board games,
Oh
and
my
I'm finally watching a
God.
YouTube video about
That's
them.
crazy.
It's amazing.
I
how that
know.
works.
So yeah, you split up the card, you deal out the cards, you split the cards up, and you pretty much have to try to make a ice cream sundae with the cards that you get without having to make a vegetable sundae, because who wants a vegetable sundae? So the one bad thing I heard was they only have chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla ice cream, which is totally lame, but they have tons of toppings. The thing that really got me was the first thing I actually saw was the coffee expansion.
Ah.
So I didn't even know about the Sunday Split game at first. First thing I saw on Miniature Market on the new releases was the coffee expansion. I was like,
thought that was to a game called Just Desserts.
oh, shit. I think you're right. Fuck.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
shoot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's not an expansion to the
Shit.
Sunday Split game.
Okay,
It's-
yeah, you're right. So that led me to that Just Desserts game, which led me to the Sunday Split game.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so there's my pattern there. And then I ended up thinking that I would like the Sunday Split game better than the Just Desserts game.
Okay. Because I could have gotten the Just Desserts game for like $3 at the swap meet that I went to last week. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, it looks like crap. But
yeah. And I kind of thought the same.
Yeah.
But
the
that's
Sunday
what
Split-
led me to the Sunday Split.
Sunday Split looks more
yeah,
interesting.
when I was researching the Just Desserts game because of the coffee expansion, because I love coffee, that led me to Sunday Splits. Like, ooh, that kind of looks like fun. It's ice cream and it's making sundaes, and that's totally fun. So, I mean, it kind of reminds me of
Sushi Go a little
Sushi
bit.
Go. Yeah, like that's.
I've heard comparisons of that game to this.
like
I have
something
heard
really
about it.
simple and quick, and
I have heard about it. I'll give you that. But no, that's a good pick. That's new, and I've heard good things about it too. You know, it's a very light, fast game,
Light,
but I
fast.
have heard that it's pretty fun. So that's a good one. What's your other pick, babe?
I thought you were gonna go. I thought,
No, you
Oh, okay.
you give me your 2, and then
well,
I'll give you
then
my
I'm not
2.
ready. Let me get to my other screen here.
Oh, you got this.
Okay, I'm going. I
Just
have
don't screw up the pronunciation,
Oh,
whatever you
shut
do.
up. Okay, so my second game that I picked out was way, way different than my first game. Lucidity, Six-Sided Nightmares. The first thing that drew me to this game without even knowing what the hell it was about was the artwork. Holy cow, the box is freaking awesome.
Okay,
It's-
what's it look like?
It's a big eyeball.
Nice.
So it's a black and white box, big, huge eyeball, and the eyeball itself is colored. Like, it just looks really cool. And so then I did some research on it. By research, I mean I read the description on Miniature Market.
Why don't you read the description for us and our
I will.
listeners?
Manufacturer is Renegade Game Studios again. It is estimated release date February 2018, so we can
So
pre-order
it doesn't come out until next year.
Yeah, we can pre-order
Now, Renegade
now.
Games is kind of on a giant tear right now. They're taking over. I mean, we've reviewed several of their games in the past. We reviewed one of their games this week. Ex Libris is a Renegade game. I like most everything they're doing. They're putting out a big mix of light games and heavier games. So it's interesting that you picked two games from the
Renegade
same studio, but they're so vastly different. So
Very
continue.
different. So here's the description that Miniature Market has. And then I also watched a video on this one too, and it looked way awesome. So you have the ability to enter the dream world, a world of vivid hallucinations and horrific monsters. Draw power from the nightmares that live there, but do not let them corrupt you. For there are other dreamers seeking power this night, and there's only room for one to escape from the realm of nightmares. Should you become corrupted and turn into a nightmare yourself, you must hunt down the other dreamers and consume their power. When the night is over, only one dreamer or nightmare will be standing.
Ooh.
Then that's like fun.
That sounds interesting. So what are the mechanisms in this game?
It was, well, from what I saw, it was each person gets their own little player board, and it's dice, which is the whole, 6-sided nightmare thing. So you're trying to get all the different symbols from what I understood, and I could have understood it incorrectly.
But you said it's a push your luck game, right?
It's a push your luck game, yeah. It's a dice rolling push your luck game about nightmares. So I mean, how fun does that sound?
Well, that sounds pretty cool.
And it goes perfect in with my, love the gothic theme.
So does the artwork continue in the actual components of the game, like player boards and stuff?
Yes, the player board is the big eyeball. It's on the box.
Ah, okay.
Which is just awesome. Like I said, that was the first thing that grabbed me was the eyeball. And then I was like, ooh, it's about nightmares. That's cool too.
Cool. Well, I like push your luck games. You like push your luck games.
I do.
So that one sounds very interesting. So I'm going to consider those 2 games while I pitch you my 2 games, and then we will each choose one of the games that we've thrown out there. How's that sound to you?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Let me have it.
So you did good with your homework, babe,
Thank you.
the way. Okay.
By the way, my homework was done early.
Yes, it was. See, this was my whole plan. This whole podcast was your idea, weirdly enough. But
it was really just my idea to spend time with you.
Well, that's good. We always spend time together, but we would just be watching TV right now instead of this, and then
I'd be sleeping in your armpit.
Yeah, you'd probably be asleep right now. But my whole angle at it was, then I can get her hooked on board games as much as me, and that's probably never going to happen. But slowly but surely, I'm drawing you in, making you actually watch videos about games.
Oh my gosh!
You see, this is my long plan, the long game I'm playing, the long con. Okay, so my 2 games are. It's funny enough that you mentioned what drew you into your first game, because my first game for you is Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game.
Wait a minute. I thought we were picking out games that we wanted.
Well, I want this game too, but I think you will
want
like
a coffee game?
Yes, this game.
Oh.
Okay, so Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game, which is the worst title ever, but I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because there is a Viva Java, the coffee game, which I was more interested in that to begin with because it kind of has a board and it's got these little colored coffee beans that you place out. But all the reviews for that game said that there are problems with it, that the theme is good, but that there's just several things that kind of make the game not very fun and sort of broken. So they came out with the Viva Java coffee game, the dice game version, which is using the same core concepts of making these blends of coffee by getting different coffee beans and trying to make blends that are worth more points. And they did it with a dice game. And the reviews for this are outstanding. Everybody that I hear about say that they totally took this idea and they actually made a much better game with the dice game, which you don't usually hear that very often. That it's usually the dice game is just a dumbed down, quicker version of the original game. But this one, everybody says the dice game is better. So basically you have these little coasters that are put out. Those are kind of the boards. And some of them will have these some of them have spots to put your dice down to make featured blends. And some of them have spots you can go to get like dice that have like wild sides on them to where they can be all the colors. But basically you're trying to roll these dice and you get different color coffee beans. And you're trying to make these blends of these different color coffee beans. And they're kind of like poker hands. Like you can have 3 of a kind or a full house or 2 pair of colors, and those make better or worse blends. And if your blend is the featured blend and nobody beats it, then it stays out another round and it gets worth more and you score more points for it. So that's the idea of that game. So it is sort of another push your luck because you can re-roll your stuff too. And you might end up with something worse than what you had before or might be better. So I thought that theme was good.
That sounds wonderful.
Heard the game was good. So that's Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game, designed by T.C. Petty III from Dice Hate Me Games. So that's my first one. Now, my second one. I think I picked 2 really good ones that you would like. The other one I saw at this said swap meet, and I almost bought it. But I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I thought, I don't know. I don't know if I want to take a flyer on this just on the theme. but I read a little bit about it, and it is kind of interesting. So it's called The Card Game of Oz, and it's designed by James C. O'Connor and published by Game Salute. Now, what it is it is a Wizard of Oz themed game, and it's this new system that this guy made called the Storyline game system, where each person plays like the author trying to make the best version of said story. And this one happens to be Oz. There's all these cards, giant box full of cards. And think of it sort of like a storytelling game, except you're not telling a story in conjunction with everybody else. You're trying to play out your cards to make a story. So there's these special dice that you roll at the beginning of your turn, which will tell you how many points you get, action points you get to put out cards that turn. And I think there's these cards that you can play out that manipulate those and do things with that. But basically then you have all these cards in your hand and you're trying to make a timeline of the story of the Wizard of Oz. Now you don't have to do every single thing that happens, but the better story you make out of the cards you have, I don't know how that's determined. I don't know how that scores. I don't know if it's subjective.
Sounds interesting.
But yeah. But the thing that I've heard that's bad about this is a lot of things with Game Salute. And funny enough, both of my games that I talked about are from the same company.
How funny.
Renegade has one of the best reputations in board games, and Game Salute has one of the worst reputations. They have a bad reputation of doing Kickstarters that either don't fulfill or come in super late, or the components are messed up, or they like what's happened in this game. From what I heard from a friend of mine was that they basically published this game and then tied up and then didn't want to republish it, but are tying up this guy's design and won't let him take it to somewhere else to republish. So that's
not very nice.
Kind of bad. And I've heard they did something similar to that with another game too. So Game Salute has its problems, that's for sure. But it looks interesting to me. So those are my two games, and we've heard your two games. Why don't you go ahead and pick first?
I think the Java dice game.
Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game? You think that's the one you would prefer?
Yeah.
Okay.
However, I do feel that your picks are more leaning towards what I would like instead of games you would like.
Babe, there's something you should know about me. I like all games.
I mean, that's true.
Not all games, but
I just expected, army games and war games, not Wizard of Oz.
I don't like those kind of games.
Java games and coffee games, because that's my alley.
How often do you see me playing army games or war games? Not very often.
With the boys.
No, I can find the fun in any game. So if what I'm looking for are things that interest me, but that I think the theme-wise would interest you. So
I like the coffee game.
All right, so say the words. Say the words.
What are the words? The coffee game.
What is the name of the segment, woman?
Oh, buy me this game.
You see what I'm working with here, people? Oh my God. I mouthed the words too, right to her. Okay, my turn now.
Your turn, baby.
Okay.
Do you pick Sunday Split or Lucidity?
I'll give you one guess as to which one of these I will pick.
Lucidity.
Banana Split or whatever it's called.
Sunday Split.
No, I definitely Lucidity because
Yeah.
I remember seeing this on Kickstarter and looking at it and thinking, hey, that's interesting, but again, like all Kickstarters, I'll let it pass me by. But
So wait a minute. So if we both have a game to pick, we're not going to buy 2 games. So what now?
We're going to buy 2 games.
Oh, we are?
Especially since you picked one that doesn't
I
come out
think
till next year anyway.
Maybe our listeners should give us their vote into which game we should purchase.
Oh.
Lucidity or the one with the 10 words?
Well, that's interesting. We should talk about this off air. But
Sorry.
'cause my idea was I was trying to keep my budget to be like 2 games per 2-week cycle.
We can see what it does.
But yeah, okay. Well, let's do that then. So, change in plans. We're going to put this to you, listeners, and I'll put this on the Facebook page. And we're going to put up Lucidity versus Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game, and you decide which game we will purchase.
There you go.
If you pick Lucidity, I've got 3 months to worry about it. And then if you don't, I can go ahead and get a copy of Viva Java, the dice game. So, we'll leave it up to you guys.
Those
And
are our
that's-
picks. So you guys choose for us. Which one?
That's been our new segment.
Buy me this game.
Oh, God. Ugh. We'll be right back with IRL.
IRL.
And we're back with IRL. That's why I made a theme song, so we don't have to do that, but we do it anyway.
Yep.
All right. It's time for IRL.
Yes.
This is where you shine, babe, where you bring us into the world of what's going on in real life, in our lives, and in your life, because I don't do anything fun anyway. You do. So, what's been going on? We haven't talked to you since you left the great United States. While we're over here trying to make it great again, you went to our arch rivals, China.
I went to Hong Kong. Yes. So I went to Hong Kong for work, for some lighting shows out there, look at some light bulbs. And I got 3 days of fun and 3 days of work. So my first day of fun, I got to hike up a mountain, which was super amazing.
What mountain was it?
It was Ningong 360 is what it's called. But I'm
Is
not
that like the Xbox 360
No.
over there?
No, it's supposed to be, it's created.
They just call it Ningong 1 now?
No.
No?
God. So the mountain that I hiked isn't actually an actual hiking mountain. There's a cable cart that goes up the mountain.
Which you've done that before, right?
I've done that
You've
twice
right,
before,
yeah.
and we just so happened to notice that people were walking underneath us, and it's actually it's the maintenance path for the different sections of the cable cart. So at the top of each mountain, because there's actually 3 of them, there's a big area where the cable carts kind of go through. If there's any problems, they can be stopped right there, and reloaded or whatever.
Mhm.
So this path is actually the emergency walk path for the whole cable cart ride. So the cable cart leads you to this little shopping center with this big, huge Buddha on the top of the mountain. So
Your plan was to make it all the
we
way up to the
intended
Buddha.
to do all of them. So we researched it, and previous hikers had posted on Yelp and whatnot about how it takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to hike these 3 mountains to get up to the Big Buddha. And
And you couldn't make it because your stamina wore out.
no, sir. So I've been planning this for a year, and the person that I was with, one of the persons I was with was
One of the peoples?
was
Personal
unable
peoples?
to make it. So halfway up the first mountain, we had to turn back around. So I left him there, and I went ahead and finished at least the first mountain. That way we could say I climbed one mountain,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and then came back down. And so whatever, it was fun. It was still one mountain. We had, fat old people passing us, but whatever.
Well, what was the problem?
Um,
I'm acting like I don't know what
I
the
know
problem
you know what the
was.
problem is, and I'm just afraid that he'll listen, and then I'll be a horrible person for making fun of him. So
So you just did the Ningong 120.
yeah, exactly, not the 360. So
I had to get a calculator to do that math.
oh my god. I was wondering what you were doing on your phone.
It's late. I was like, I wanted to make this joke, but I didn't want to get the math wrong. I was like, wait a minute.
You dweeb. Oh my
Everybody knows
God.
I'm dumb.
Oh, dweeb. So the most awesome thing I did over there was we had booked a sea kayaking tour. So we took a ferry from Hong Kong, and it was a 30-minute ferry to Llama Island. And from Llama Island, we met this Australian tour guide who travels all around the world doing this. And just so happens right now he's in Hong Kong. And
What was the bloke's name?
Dave,
Hello, I'll be playing Dave in this here reenactment.
thank you, baby.
All right.
And-
I'm Dave. We're going to be kayaking the Chinese Sea today.
The South China
The
Sea.
South China Sea. I'll be doing the telling of the
Oh,
names
I'm
of
so
things.
sorry.
Okay, I am the tour guide.
Are you
I
gonna
think I know the name of the place
Are you
that I'm
going
at.
to tell about all the trash and stuff?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it. What happens is all the Chinese trash from Hong Kong gets dumped right into this here ocean. And
story.
every day I'm like, crikey, there's all this trash everywhere. They don't even put it in the bins. They just drop it right in the ocean. It's terrible. All right, I'm done with my bad.
But really, that's
accent.
true.
But that is true, right? Like, that was
yeah.
the big thing that you guys
Oh my
learned.
God, it was horrible.
So, like, on the side of this island that faces Hong Kong is just full of trash, and the other side is, like,
beautiful,
nice.
gorgeous, and beautiful. And so he said he spends 2 to 3 hours every single night after his tours are over cleaning up the beach because of all the trash that washes in every single day from Hong Kong. Like
And drinking Foster's and throwing shrimps on the barbie,
isn't
right?
that horrible?
Uh-huh.
That's just so sad.
Oh, you mean my accent? Or what
That
happened?
too.
Oh, okay.
But that's just, I had no idea that, like, Hong Kong was just literally throwing their trash in the ocean.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me, really, but I guess you said that that's not really the case in all of China.
No, because he said China mainland does not do that.
Hmm.
But what do they do with it? I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, like, what do we do with it? We bury it and just try to forget about it.
I guess.
But
So anyway, I got to freaking kayak the ocean.
that was cool.
It
So
was
you were
so
kayaking
awesome.
around and there's just trash floating everywhere?
No, not on the other side because
I'm
we
just
we
kidding.
kayaked on the opposite side.
So how was that? That was pretty cool.
It was amazing. So he started off on really nice, calm waters, and then we stopped, went on a harbor, stopped for lunch. He had packed a big, huge lunch. It was beautiful. Got back on and went on another harbor, and then we were out in the middle, like actually in the ocean. So we see all these barges and container boats and yada. I mean, and the waves got really big, and he must have seen it on my face because he immediately looked at me. He's like, Leandra, how you doing? I was like, I'm not doing well. So, but it was the most amazing experience, like nature-wise, that I've ever had. It was pretty
That's
awesome.
cool. That's cool. How did your persons handle that?
Well, apparently he gets motion sickness. The person that wasn't able to go up the mountain, he gets motion sickness and didn't bring his motion sickness with him on a
medicine?
kayaking trip. Yeah. So, that was the thing too.
Okay. Well, so all in all, China, it's a long trip.
Such a long trip.
Is it worth it?
Half of it.
Half of it's worth it.
Yeah, because then I come back and I have so much work to do.
Yeah.
And
like we talked about at the beginning, but like your jet lag was crazy, and your just
horrible.
the lack of sleep you got, and then you came back and the time changed immediately, and so that already screws people up. That screwed me up just in and of itself, and then that on top of jet lag is like, it's crazy.
I feel like I'm just now, like just like the end of last
3
week,
weeks
and now
afterwards, right?
I'm just
Yeah. Or 2
now
weeks.
really feeling like I'm back to normal as far as sleeping.
Well, sounds interesting and fun at times. So
He's got a Dave, the Australian.
Dave, that's
Yes.
me. Yeah.
Sea kayaking in Hong Kong on Facebook. It's so awesome.
Check it out, Dave. Sea kayaking in Hong Kong. It's crazier than a drunk wallaby.
Wow.
And koalas have chlamydia.
Oh my God.
That's true, but we don't want to talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. What's in your IRL, baby?
Okay, my IRL is super boring. I'm going to read a dorky fantasy novel. I actually started today. Been waiting on it. It's the new Stormlight Archives book, the third in the series from Brandon Sanderson, called Oathbringer. And I've been waiting on it to come out for quite a while, not quite as long as Patrick Rothfuss's new book for his series about whatever that's called, King Killer Chronicles. Yeah, that one's still working. The funny thing is, Brandon Sanderson writes books that are about 2,000 pages long, and Brandon Sanderson writes them that are about 400 pages long. Or excuse me, Patrick Rothfuss writes about 400-page ones, and Sanderson's like kicking his ass on getting books out. So get off your ass, Patrick Rothfuss, and finish up the series. So Oathbringer will probably be like one of the best-selling fantasy books in a long time. It's been highly anticipated. Started reading it today. Seems like it's going to be really good. So if you have not read any of the Stormlight Chronicles from Brandon Sanderson, you should go check it out, because it's one of the best fantasy series that I've ever read since The Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones, all the way back to Tolkien stuff. This is one of the best ones out there. So if you haven't read it, start reading it. And that's it for me because that's all I got.
Hey, I like it.
You don't like it.
I don't.
You don't want to read a 2,000-page high fantasy novel?
Are you going to read it or are you going to listen?
Well, I'm listening to it. But if any time I say I'm reading anything, I'm listening to it on Audible.
That's
because
two different things, my love.
No, it's the same thing.
You're listening to a book as you work.
But, babe, I know how to read. It's not like I
I
wouldn't read
understand
it if I could.
But
I do not have time.
Most people
to read
don't
it.
have time just to sit down and read a 2,000-page book.
Most people do. Most people, I know that actually most people, most of my friends that have read this series have actually read the books. So, I mean,
They
I
have
read,
jobs.
the first two I had on both Audible and Kindle, so I could do the Whisper Sync thing. So I would read part of them and then I would pick up, which is a really cool function if you can do that. If you have Audible and Kindle, you can just be reading on your Kindle and then turn it off and then start listening to your Audible and it will sync it to the exact spot you quit reading, which is really cool. I did that for the first two books, but this one I was like, it's a $45 audiobook. And I've got a lot of work ahead of me in this holiday season, so I figure I'm going to have a lot of time at work to just try to block out the rest of the world and listen to this. So that's my plan. And when I say I'm reading, I'm always listening normally. Because who has time to read nowadays?
Who has time for that shit?
All right. So that's been our episode. Babe, what do you think? Lucky number 13. Was it lucky?
Lucky number 13.
It's over. It's in the can.
Good to be back.
Next up is 14. And I can't really say what we're going to do because I really don't know. We're going to figure it out as we go. We're going to try to get it out in 2 weeks. But until then, we will see you. Whoa, wait a minute. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what's happening.
Right behind you. Check it out.
I know. I see him.
Okay. Hey, mister. Get up here.
I see him.
Maurice, get up here. You got some splaining to do, Maurice. You, my friend. Yeah, get up here. Climb up here. You were not a nice fellow to Lily in our Halloween episode. You kind of tried to fart attack her and me, as far as that goes. And I do believe you owe us both an apology. And I'm going to give you one chance to apologize to me and her and our listeners. Or else you're off the show. Okay, you understand? All right, Maurice. Tell the people how you apologize, and you're not going to do it again. Maurice! That is not apologizing. That's doing what you always do, and nobody likes to hear it. It's gross. Stop it! All right, Maurice! Get out of here! All right, that's it, y'all. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to episode number 14 of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. We invite you to check out our website at nsfwppodcast.com, where you can find links to download us on all the various sites such as iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and direct from the site itself. You can also see pictures of the games we've been playing and comment on our episodes and let us know what you like and what you don't like. Get involved with us at our Board Game Geek Guild. The link is there on the site. And also, I would invite you to check out www.mooncitycon.com to get details, tickets, and t-shirts for Southwest Missouri's premier gaming convention coming up in April of next year. So check out all those things and then come back here next week for another fantastic episode. We'll see you then.